Welcome to MSBS Dharma Sharing Online. This event is jointly organized by Mahasatipatthana Buddhist Society and Mudita Buddhist Society Klang. It's supported by Theravada Buddhist Council of Malaysia. Today is Tuesday, 11th August 2020. The time now is 8:32. Wow, same like last week. Okay, a few housekeeping rules before we start. Okay, display your name for easy identification. Make sure your audio is muted at all times. If you wish to ask a question, you may type your question at the chat box. To ask verbally, you may raise hand, unmute and talk. Please turn off your microphone after finish asking. One person to speak at one time. During guided meditation, please on your video so Bante can see your progress. The meeting room will be locked from this session on, Bante, to cut down on distraction. Okay, MSBS is fortunate to have with us Bante Adhibalo, popularly known as Phra Goh. Bante was born on July 14, 1985. Bante had his bhikkhu ordination into the Theravada tradition of Thai Dhammayut sect at Santi Forest Monastery in Johor, Malaysia in 2008. Bante spent the first 5 spring retreats at various forest monasteries in Malaysia, Thailand. He is currently the Vice President of Palelai Buddhist Temple, Singapore. Today we are having a new topic. It's on breath meditation. A continuation from the retreat we have for 2 Saturdays, is it?
Oh yes, yeah. To explain more in detail, and the retreat is more like having the infrastructure, right, the skeleton. So now we are picking the details.
Yeah, so the audience is getting bigger and bigger. So Bante, you are in the net for a few more months. Hopefully can.
We'll see how it goes.
Okay, let's compose our mind and put our palms together and welcome Bante. Over to you, Bante.
Okay. All right, thank you, Terence. Okay, so with reverence to the Buddha, right? So this chant, for the Buddhist audience. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. 3 refuges. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. And the 5 precepts. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu miccācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musavada Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami Sura Meraya Madhyapamadhatana Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so we've done the opening chanting. Now we are going to talk on this mindfulness of breathing, right? So when we come to meditation classes, we are like learning how to be baby, right? Like teaching an infant how to do everything from scratch, like learn how to sit, how to walk, how to breathe, and know how to think, right? So it's a bit like reprogramming everything. Okay, so this is the so-called Buddhist version. Of course, when I mean Buddhist version, I will just refer to the suttas. And along the way, there are so many schools and so many teachers, and everyone will interpret differently. Some maybe based on various other kinds of scriptures, some even post-canonical scriptures, and they come up with all kinds of various methods. So just introduction, the method will be mainly be influenced, right? The one that I'm teaching is mainly influenced by the style from this late Venerable Amata Gavesi from Sri Lanka and some of the suttas here, all right? So next slide. Okay, so there's this so-called story, the backdrop of this Anapanasati Sutta. This is the most sort of the popular kind of the scripture used in most Buddhist circles. If they want to talk about breath meditation, they will refer to this Anapanasati Sutta, right? So different people will take it differently. Some say, oh, this Anapanasati is a Vipassana method. And some people say, Anapanasati is a samatha method. Vipassana means insight meditation. Samatha means concentration meditation. So some say it's both together, right? So which is which, right? So I'm going to say all three, all three, right? I will go in detail later or when I have a chance, depending on how much I cover. I normally try to cover until 9 o'clock. Then 9 o'clock, then have some Q&A, right? Then followed by practical guided sitting, because I prefer experiential kind of feel towards the teaching, not just theoretical, right? Because theoretical, anybody can read, and then there's no impact, right? No depth, right? Okay, so this is the introduction. Okay, mindfulness of breathing is this sutta is taught in one of the after the rains retreat, one of the rains retreat, where the Buddha found that a lot of monks benefited from this breath meditation, right? Even at some instances, some of the monks, when they were practicing other forms of meditation, they got into problem. Let's say these impurities of the body meditation, they got into some problems. Then the Buddha asked them to stop doing these impurities of the body, these kind of human biology and anatomy kind of visualization, and start to watch the breath, right? Watch the breath. So this is sort of one of the more neutral kind of breath meditation. But of course, you played the audio before the official starting. So like any meditation object, there can be extremes, right? Breath meditation can be practiced wrongly as well, right? So I will go into that in the practical session. The main thing is the right thought, avoiding the both extremes, so we can program the mind to be in the middle, so that we can avoid those problems. Okay, so after the Buddha taught this teaching again, then more monks benefited from this breath meditation, right? So of course, in this presentation, I may not be able to cover today. There are several suttas, several scriptures talking about breath meditation. right? So if you were just to take this alone, sometimes it's open to interpretation. Some may say, oh, this is just vipassana kind of thing, right? Insight meditation kind of thing. But if you connect the dots, you compare with a few other suttas, then you will find, hey, it can also be a samatha practice, a concentration kind of meditation that you can find the trajectory. Okay, so these are the few benefits. So the number one, breath in and out, right? When developed and pursued is of great benefit, right? So the Buddha himself used this breath meditation. So of course he will publicize. Okay, next. Okay, mindfulness of in and out breathing, right? When developed and pursued, brings the four frames of reference to their culmination. So four frames of reference is this Ajahn Thanissaro's translation. The common term is four foundations of mindfulness. In the Zoom retreat, previously, when we talk about mindfulness of the body, right, we covered the breath meditation. However, in the any kind of meditation object actually has four foundations of mindfulness. That is mindfulness of the body, number one, mindfulness of feeling, number two, mindfulness of the mind, number three, and number four, mindfulness of the Dhamma, the phenomenon. So there are four aspects of the breath. So I will cover that in detail. So breath is not just simply the physical air you breathe in and out. There are many dimensions, many perspectives to the breathing. You can learn a lot from the breath. Okay, next. So the four foundations of mindfulness, when developed and pursued, brings the seven factors of awakening or seven factors of enlightenment to their culmination, right? So this is the benefit number three. So again, the seven factors of enlightenment is again part of the fourth foundation of mindfulness, the mindfulness of Dhamma. Okay, and the next one, right? So the seven factors of enlightenment, when developed and pursued, brings clear knowing and release to their culmination, right? So this is the, how do you call it? The end product, right? So seven factors of enlightenment is just a process, right? So if a person needs to go through these four procedures, then you can more or less gear towards the final goal, which is, in our case, the Theravada Buddhism, aim for enlightenment. Okay, next. Okay, so pursuing the breath, right? So these are the few, we call it prerequisites, preconditions, right? A few things a person need to prepare, need to do before you do the breath meditation. There are some meditation objects which can be done something like throughout the day, like previous sessions we talked about loving kindness kind of meditation. You can do it standing, sitting, walking, lying down. Whereas if you want to talk about breath meditation, the preparation kind of gives a clue that you need to do it to enhance the experience of concentration. Okay, so this is the first one. If you go to a secluded area, so this is the first criteria. Okay, so it can be a wilderness, a shade of a tree, next, or an empty building, right? So these are few suggested places. That means ideally, right, if you want to practice, please do not practice breath meditation in a public transport, a lot of people talking, a lot of movement, a lot of this, a lot of that, right? So ideally, it's good to do it in a quiet environment. So it doesn't always have to be in the forest, right? It can be an empty building. So if, let's say, you're at home, make sure your house, nobody disturb you, then you can practice. Okay, sit down, folding his legs, right? So if you sit down, like right now we're sitting on a chair, most of us in the Zoom session sitting on a chair, maybe watching the laptop, watching a handphone, whatever it is, right? So again, in the Zoom retreat, we have various postures. So if a person can't sit on the floor, You can sit on a chair. So whichever posture that you find is stable and can you sort of quite comfortable to last you for a long time, right? So this is your ideal posture. Okay, next. Holding the body erect, upright, right? So again, important to be upright. So again, later in the meditation, please, if possible, if you do not have any back injury, right, try not to lean on the chair, not to lean on the wall. It's good to sit upright, so it's to keep yourself alert, because anything too comfortable will result in sleepiness, especially this timing. I'm sure some of you already have dinner, right? So the blood will go to your digestive system, and it's the perfect combination to go to slumberland, right? Okay, next. Okay, setting mindfulness to the fore. Okay, so this is very specific mindfulness to the fore. That means in front. It's not to. It's not like the meditation on loving kindness, where you have boundless loving kindness. You think of all direction, left, right, east, west, north, south, above and below. So this is very specific, just the front, right? So if you look at the Buddha statue, right, you don't see the Buddha staring up and staring at different directions. The Buddha is always casting the eyes downwards, mindful to the fore, right? So this is also actually part of the monastic precepts. If we have like nothing to do in any public area, alone, whatever it is, we try to cast the eyes downwards. Basically, it's also training to restrain the senses, right? The whole idea is to restrain the senses. So when we practice this breath meditation, if good thing is it's secluded, right? If it's in a crowded place, some people walk past, then you might want to gape, hey, who walked past? And then you get distracted, right? So even alone, let's say maybe an empty building or in a forest, then you cast your eye downward, then your screen has something pop up, and you gape, you want to see what's that popping up? Who's calling me or who's ringing? So that is a kind of distraction, right? So the whole idea is avoid as much distraction as possible. But if you can't avoid, then if you're mindful to the fore, that means understand how your mind sort of run out. That means react to that stimuli, and the whole idea is to learn to let go and come back to the peace. So again, this is high skill meditation, right? It requires some training to develop this sense restraint, which we also covered in the loving kindness and also these four foundations of mindfulness. Okay, next. Okay, so now in the breath meditation, normally it gets very complicated because the breath meditation has 16 steps, right? So anybody, when you hear 16 steps, they want to do how to remember all these 16 steps, right? So actually, you don't have to remember all the 16 in sequence. What you need to do is you have 16 divided by 4. So you just need to know only 4 things, right? So the first 4 is mindfulness of the body. The next 4, mindfulness of the feelings. Next 4, mindfulness of the mind. And the last 4, mindfulness of the Dhamma, that is the teachings which you can learn from observing the breath. So there are 4 aspects. So the first 4 I'm going to cover first, right? So the first one, if you breathe in long, you must know you breathe in long. You breathe out long, you must know you breathe out long. And the second, in short, and breathe out short, you must know. And the third, right? Mindful of the entire body, right? And the fourth, breathe in and breathe out, calming the entire breath body. Okay, so the first 2, breathe in and breathe out long. Basically, you don't have to purposely breathe in and breathe out long, right? You don't have to purposely breathe in and then you must purposely breathe out and very long. No, don't have to. What it means that, especially in my session, that means let your breath be your natural reflex action. Natural reflex action. That means you don't have to purposely control the breathing. Don't purposely control the breathing. I believe there are some schools of breath meditation. They do control their breathing, right? There are some who do that, but for the style I'm using, there's no need to control your breathing, right? The whole idea is if it is long, you just know it's long. If it's short, then you know it's short, right? So of course, one of the instructions later, which I'll cover, one of the mindful of the four elements, mindful of the wind element, right? The breathe in and breathe out, the speed, right? We'll cover that later in the mindfulness of Dhamma. So it's all comes back around to square one. It's all actually together. The Buddha just likes to dissect and then make it into various segments so that you can sort of understand it. Okay, so this physical in and out breath initially, right, when breathe in and breathe out this physical air, let's say for any beginner, when you breathe in and breathe out, there might not be much depth to it, right? But after you go along, right, if later we go through the various steps, then there are various dimensions to it. Okay, so the next one, breathe in and out short. Okay, so this first one and number one and number two steps is basically your natural breathing. That means don't need to control. Okay, so number three, breathe in sensitive to the entire body and breathe out sensitive to the entire body. Okay, so again, this one has various kinds of interpretation. Okay, so some schools will believe is this entire our physical body, from head to toe. So this is mindful of an entire body. So this one can be, akin to a kind of vipassana kind of meditation where we scan through your whole body, right? So this is what we normally do in our sessions at the beginning is scan through the body first, right? To sort of relax the body, sensitive to the elements and to be at peace with the elements. And another interpretation would be the breath body is just this physical breath body and a particular area, not the entire physical body. So it's basically the air, right? The breath body. So there are many interpretations to this breath meditation, but to me, right, this this smaller restricted breath body will be covered later, right, in mindfulness of the mind. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the next one, when breathe in, right, sensitive to rapture, that means a kind of pleasant kind of feeling, kind of joy. Okay, and the next one, and when you breathe in and breathe out, sensitive to pleasure, right? Also, it's another kind of pleasant feeling. Okay, so again, Ajahn Jeff's translation, rapture would probably be joy, and pleasure is a kind of happiness, right? So basically, both are pleasant feelings. Okay, then number 7, he trains himself with breathe in, sensitive to mental fabrication. And the next one, number 8, right? Breathe in, breathe out, calming mental fabrication. Okay, so this feeling part, number 5 and 6 will be more appropriate. Okay, so what happens is in our meditation, we use loving kindness meditation to sort of induce this pleasant feeling, right? You need the incentive for the mind to come together. So feelings, right, by right actually have 3 kinds of feelings, or maybe some have more, right? But generally have 3: pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. 3 kinds of feelings, right? So, but in this case, for the breath meditation, somehow we are ignoring the unpleasant feeling. We are ignoring the unpleasant feeling because this is gearing towards samatha practice. We want the mind to unify. If the mind is like open awareness and you're sort of objective and neutral, you should be just letting all whatever sensation, pleasant or unpleasant, let it arise, let it arise by itself, right? But in this case, it's just focusing on pleasant feeling, focusing on pleasant feeling. So there's a reason to it, because the mind, right, needs this pleasant thing to sort of at least cling on to this pleasant feeling for that moment. For that moment, we need an incentive for the mind to cling, right? In the in the Zen tradition, they have this painting of an ox. There are like maybe several paintings, a cycle. Basically, is to show metaphorically that the ox is something like the mind or the breath. When we're doing meditation, and this fella is trying to struggle, taking a rope, trying to have tug of war, trying to fight with the bull, fight with the ox, to make it calm down. Then eventually, he's able to ride on the ox, right? So for this case, if you want to do it the simple way, the easy way, is basically don't fight with the bull. A lot of times, a lot of meditators love to fight with the ox, like to struggle with the breath, like to fight with the breath, yeah? Try to fight with the mind. So they can sit for many, many hours, they're fighting, and they want to control the mind, fight. They can sit for many, many hours, right? Then it's only towards the end, then maybe they can start to calm down. So it's not very productive or not very effective, right? So this is probably the Buddha's simple solution. Find this joy, right? Make the bull come to you. You don't need to go and fight the bull. Just feed it some grass and then you come to you. So have loving kindness breath. So this is what I'm using, loving kindness to the breath. So the breath can be at peace, make peace with the breath. Okay, so number 7, sensitive to mental fabrication. Sensitive to mental fabrication. So basically, if the mind gets more sensitive, then it transits from just the physical air, right? Then there's another dimension. Then you start to feel feelings, this pleasant and unpleasant feeling. But of course, we induce loving kindness. You start to feel feelings, and then when the minds get more sensitive, then it gets to feel mental fabrication, mental volition. Right? Mental volition is basically the sort of the we call it the attention running around, right? Mental formation. So I normally give a small short experiment. Okay, let's say we raise our finger. Right? Can everyone do this? Raise our finger. It's just an experiment. Okay. Now I want you to point. Where is your attention now? What are you paying attention to? Can be to this screen, can be the sound, can be whatever, right? So where is your attention at every given moment? Is it always up there? Right? So where is your attention? So, right, that movement is mental volition, right? But if we restrict the mind to one small area, right? So we start to be mind aware of restlessness. We start to be aware of restlessness. The mind was always like to jump around, I'm sure, like to jump around. So we're mindful of that. So within that area, sometimes also like to jump around within that area. So you're mindful of that thing, right? Mindful of this mental attention that's always trying to run around. Okay, then next is breathe in and breathe out, trying to calm this mental fabrication, right? So it's tame, right? Trying to tame this ox, trying to tame this monkey mind, the mind that always likes to run around here and there. Okay, and oh yeah, now it's 9 o'clock, right? So I don't want to cover too much. So we have more to cover for the next few sessions. Okay, so these are the first few steps in theory, right? We need to overcome first. Of course, in the practical guided session, I might cover more. But then if I cover more steps, then some people might not know, hey, where you get these instructions from? Where does these steps come from? So we'll cover it in the theory in the next week session. It's all in the suttas. Okay, so I leave the floor open for Q&A, right? We have like maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Anybody can ask questions, can be from this Zoom chat room, and can be from Facebook comments, wherever you want to find it. Anybody? Nobody has question? Oh yeah, because we cover too little. No questions at the moment.
Bante, can I ask?
Yeah.
When we say mindfulness of feelings, then you talk about sensitive to rapture, pleasure, and all that. Again, ignoring the unpleasant feelings.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
So if we practice mindfulness of feelings, does it help to control our anger towards people and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, that would be the wisdom stage, yeah? the longer term solution, right? So of course, if you can do it and find it effective, by all means, right? If let's say if you want to talk in terms of Buddhist sort of psychology or Buddhist dependent origination, right? Clinging and anger comes after feeling, right? So normally after these pleasant and unpleasant sensations, then the mind will react either with anger or greed, right? So this is the natural kind of progression. So if a person is able to be mindful of the feelings and able to negate reacting in a strong manner, then yeah, by all means, yeah.
Is there a way to practice this mindfulness of feelings? Because I'm one of those people who react very fast. So I want to know how I can control that.
Okay, all right. So again, this is the first step. So of course, not everybody can be a sort of a passive observer all the time. So we need a kind of training first, some kind of foundation, laying the foundation. So for my case would be, we go through a lot of this metta meditation, right? We have these sublime states, at least make the mind calm and concentrated to a certain extent. Then we can talk about open awareness. Once the mind is happy, then you can try experimenting, opening up the mind, watching the various feelings come and go, and see how far you can go with that, right?
So meaning that it has to be at a higher level of training lah. At this level tak boleh lagi kan?
Everybody has different progression, right? So I'm not sure about yourself, but I would say mindfulness of if a person just want to watch mindfulness of feeling, that wouldn't be a beginner's kind of practice.
Okay, understand. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Sadhu.
All right. Sadhu.
Jen?
Okay. Any other?
Yeah,
Bante.
Jen Lim.
Bante.
Yeah. Yes.
DKC, yeah.
Yeah.
DKC.
Can Bante speak a bit on how do we deal with nimittas? When you
okay.
meditate, your mind generate different colors and all that. How do we deal with that when you are doing breath meditation?
Okay, all right. Yeah, so this is a very interesting question. Yeah, there are many schools of sort of doing different styles of doing breath meditation, right? So there are the post-canonical version, for example, like the Visuddhimagga would mention about nimittas, certain signs. When you meditate on the breath, then there are various, maybe sometimes pictures and colors, right? So for our case, if a person is just feeling the sensation, the tactile bodily sensation, so the nimitta is more a tactile kind of sensation, right? It's got to do with the four elements, either hard or soft, this kind of sensation, warm or cold, and that sort of stuff. So it's nothing to do with seeing stuff. So my take on this light, seeing of light, I covered in one of the Zoom retreats. If a person has already some divine eye potential before that, and they watch the breath, they might see something. They might see certain colors or visions. So this is the more visual inclined people, right? If a person doesn't have any divine eye kind of potential, or kind of divine eye that's developed, then they can sit for 101 million hours feeling the breath, they cannot see anything. Right? So normally for those who want to see something, they must do certain kasina meditation first. You know, they must develop the divine eye, then they watch the breath again, then they might see something. So the divine eye will see beings in terms of their merit. You know, if a person more meritorious or more samadhi, then they will appear brighter, something like that. So it's nothing to do with jhanic or concentrative kind of meditation. It's a different kind of development. All right. So in my meditation, I won't be doing any light kind of meditation, no visualization, because this kind of meditation require special guidance, right? For those meditation centers that teach this, they need to let the participants sign indemnity form first, sign indemnity form in case you see something wrong or you go crazy, then you're not at fault. Right? So for my case, very safe. I don't teach these things, so no safety issue, no risk issue. Okay, right?
But Bante, it counts by itself, you know. It's not that we are asking for it, but when you sit and calm
Let's
down,
say if let's say you have some divine eye kind of potential, and you see and feel the breath, then suddenly got something right. The whole idea is don't be attached to it. Right? Don't be attached to it. Yeah? It's just treat it as part of your sense basis. Sense basis. Depending on what you want to develop. If you want to develop jhanic concentration for peace of mind, then I recommend you ignore the light. Yeah? There are so many sense stimuli. Let's say we close our eyes now in a bright environment. Our eyes also can receive sunlight, also can receive sunlight. So sometimes to play safe, you want to know whether is it your internal light or is it external light. And when you close your eyes, you see some brightness, you cover your eyes some. See whether the light is there or disappear or diminish, right? So this is one way to troubleshoot yourself. But of course, if let's say a person wants to develop the other route, they want to develop divine eye, then they will focus on the light, whatever not. But again, I've covered in my meditation retreat, requires probably certain purification process just in case if a person happen to really develop divine eye and they don't have enough good karma, right? Then they'll be seeing demons and evil spirits and it's a horror movie, right? Then it's not so nice. So I would encourage to avoid this at the moment. So if you, let's say you do see certain sort of bright thing, then you just sort of ignore, yeah? Just like when you're seated and focusing on the breath, there can be many sense stimuli, maybe back pain, body itchy, some sound outside. You don't have to pay attention to that, right? So it's basically bringing back the restless mind. So same thing, if a person sees something bright, that's the mind thought. Right? We're supposed to sort of withdraw from the senses. All right? Okay? All right, okay.
I think the brother Jen Lim has a question.
Okay, Jen Lim, yes.
Good evening, Bante. Okay.
All right.
What is the Pali word for the mental fabrication? Is it ekagata?
Mental fabrication, no. Ekagata is one-pointedness.
What is the Pali word for that?
Ekagata is one-pointedness.
Yeah, but the mental fabrication.
Okay, mental fabrication, I have no idea. I'm not a Pali scholar, so I'm just using the English translation.
Because Bante, I think what I understood before, right, is in the Anapanasati there is a vitaka, vichara, piti, ekagata, right? So how does it relate to this one?
This one will come later. You must join in my next few Zoom sessions. I will cover that later. So for this Anapanasati Sutta, it doesn't specifically mention the jhana factors. Like vitaka, vichara is the initial and sustained thought or initial sustained kind of thinking. So that one will be covered in another sutta.
Okay, so this time I follow first.
Okay, all right. Okay. Any other questions? No question. Okay, so if there's, how about the Facebook comments? Are there any questions there?
Bante, there's no question or comment.
Okay, that's good. Then we can have like a 5-minute break. So my clock here is now 9:12. We come back at 9:17. Right, you can do your stretching, go to the washroom, so that you can avoid being distracted in the meditation. Okay, so we have a short break and come back after that.